Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. And today we're taking a look at the Ogryn again, and we're going to be looking at a Gunlugger build. So let's jump straight in, shall we, and see what we're using. So, I know it's been a while since you guys have seen me use this, but the Bully Clubs were my favourite Ogryn weapon, and I still have a kind place in my heart for them. These weapons got me through the Karnax Twins hard mode fights, and they're still really, really good. I mean, you'll get more damage out of the pickaxe, but this is far more versatile. So, we're going to be using the Brunt's Basher Mark 3B. I just prefer the attack pattern of this, but if you want to, you can use either of the other marks. I just think this mark works better for the build. And as you can see, our stat distribution is defense is our dump stat, as it always is with me, and everything else is maxed out to 80. This is just going to give us a massively good foot forward to be able to just damage everything. I decided to go for defense as the dump stat instead of mobility on this one because the Ogryn does suffer from a huge lack of mobility. And we've got a lot of defense inbuilt into the build, so a little bit more on the weapon is going to make no difference to us. So for the perks, we're going to be grabbing Flak and Carapace. These are going to basically help us deal with everything that our gun can't. So, of course, Flak is the most prevalent armor type in the game, and Carapace is just going to help us deal with those pesky crushers and maulers, as the Brunt's Basher can deal with them pretty damn well. Now, blessings. This is where you can change this up a little bit. So, I'm stuck in my ways, and I always like to build the Bully Club with Thunderous and Skull Crusher. So, Thunderous, hitting an enemy gives them 4 stacks of 2.5 brittleness debuff, lasts 5 seconds, and this can stack up to 16 times. Now, brittleness is just rending applied as a debuff. So, rending is inbuilt, so we get that all the time. Brittleness is rending applied to a target. So, it's basically rending that you apply to whatever you hit. And Skull Crusher, target receives 4 stacks of 10% damage if already staggered. Lasts 5 seconds. Everything we're going to be hitting is basically staggered because we're an Ogryn. So this is going to give us a huge amount of damage out of the Bully Club. But if you want to go for something a little bit more defensive, there are a few other ways you can do this. As I always like to give you guys options, there is no one perfect way to do anything. So, if you don't want to take Thunderous, there are a few other things you can take. You could go the thrust route and just rely on heavy attacks. We aren't getting any bonus to heavy attacks in this build because we're mostly on the right side of the tree and middle. So this will still give you a big buff, but don't feel like you have to only heavy attack. But if thrust isn't your jam, we can also go for Confident Strike. This is a very, very good talent. It's not just for if you're getting started and it'll, make things a bit easier for you, because it will. But it's absolutely amazing. This will allow you to farm back toughness continuously. Just swinging light attacks and you'll just get back everything. And if you don't want to go for Confident Strike, you could also go for Momentum. Hitting at least 3 enemies with an attack restores 15% toughness. I do think this is just a weaker version of Confident Strike, because it requires you to hit at least 3. So if you're facing just a monstrosity, it's not going to do anything for you. So I would always suggest Confident Strikes over Momentum. And last but not least, there is one more, which is Haymaker. I only suggest this because I find the talent hilarious. You basically have as you build up the stacks, you have a 20% chance to insta-kill a human-sized enemy. And I just think that's really funny. It is hilarious when it works, but you cannot guarantee when or if it will proc. With everything else, you can guarantee when it's working. So I would highly suggest Skull Crusher and either Thrust and Thunderous, for damage, or Skull Crusher and Confident Strike for a more well-rounded and defensive style. So next up is the ranged weapon. We're going with the twin-linked heavy stubber, the Achilles version, because it's just better, really, for this build. Lighter shots, but more volume of fire. Again, we are going to be building the stats, with ammo being our dump stat, and everything else being at 80. Yes, it's slightly more annoying having ammo low, but everything else is just going to help us stay stable, do damage, and hit those further targets. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could dump out range for ammo. That is a perfectly legitimate way to do it, as the top end of ranges of the twin stubbers isn't going to be great anyway. So you can, they're kind of interchangeable with however you want to play. If you want more ammo, more rounds down range, go for the ammo. If you want slightly more predictable shots, go for range. And for the perks, we are going with Unyielding and Flak. And the reason we're going with Unyielding is because every Ogryn is classed as Unyielding, and so are all monstrosities. So this is going to help us burst down bosses and hard elites. And of course we're taking Flak as the other perk because, again, it's the most prevalent armor type in the game. So this is just going to help us mow through anything that's not an Ogryn. And for the blessings, we're going for pure damage here. So we're going for Blaze Away, which is plus 8% strength for every 10% of magazine spent during continuous fire, stacks 5 times. And Overwhelming Fire, 10% strength for every 4 single target hits, lasts 2 seconds, stacks 5 times. So as you can see, that is giving us a ridiculous amount. That's giving us 90% extra damage on anything we're hitting. Now, it's all very targeted towards single target damage, because our gun is what's going to be giving us the ability to burst down Ogryns and bosses. And of course, remember, if you have run out of ammo, so there we go, my ammo's down, and oh god, there's a boss coming. When you press your F key, which is your ability key, F is mine, it reloads your gun for you. So don't feel like you have to reload before you start firing. And as you can see, you can even pretty reliably burst down crushers. So there you go. That is literally how the build works. Big single targets, use your gun. Small single targets, use your gun or hit them. I do love the bully clubs. Right, so that is the weapons. Let's take a look at the curios. So, this is a spread that I've come to use on most of my builds. That there are different ways to do it. I mean, I've got some notes here. Let me just dig them out. Yeah, so basically, I'm running 1 max health curio and 2 toughness. So on the max health one, I've got max health and then 5% more max health, toughness, regeneration speed, and damage resistance gunners. I have a horrible habit of always running 1 toughness, regeneration speed curio, and that is because, not because we need the toughness regeneration, it is because it starts the regeneration of our toughness far quicker. So it's got nothing to do with added regeneration, it's the speed of which it starts to regenerate that we want. But if you don't like toughness regeneration, you can always go for combat ability regeneration. But I just prefer the toughness. I don't think 4% combat ability regeneration perk is going to do much for us, whereas this does start the regeneration of our toughness a lot sooner than without it. And the next 2, both toughness curios, they're exactly the same. We've got 17% toughness with added toughness in the perks, and then damage resistant snipers and gunners. So as you can see, we've got gunner resist on all 3 and sniper resist on the 2 toughness ones. Gunner resist is pretty important still. They have slightly toned down the gunners, but I would still say it's kind of the most important, because not only do the Dreg and Scab heavy gunners count, gunners are also classed as shotgunners and Ogryn Reapers. So that's 4 different types of enemy that this will protect you against. And the reason we've gone for snipers instead of just more toughness generation or stamina regen is because in the higher difficulties, most of the time you will be able to dodge out of the way of a sniper shot. But there is always that time when you are surrounded and you literally can't dodge. You have no room to move. That is when you're going to get picked off by a sniper. So it's not that you can't see them coming, it's that you can't actually do anything about it. Especially when in this build we don't have a charge ability. So we have no way of moving quickly and through enemies. So I tend to run at least 2 resistance to snipers on most of my builds now. Okay, so that is the weapons and the curios. Let's take a look at the talents. So it's pretty damn standard at the beginning of the Ogryn tree here. We're taking the best defense, replenish toughness after hitting multiple enemies with a single heavy attack. We're taking Furious. For each enemy you hit during the same heavy melee attack, gain 2.5% damage on next melee attack. This is just going to help us when we do, because you're an Ogryn, you are going to have to switch to your melee weapon. You cannot be on your heavy stubber at all times. There's just not enough ammo in a run. And if there is enough ammo, you're probably annoying other people by stealing it all. I've done it. It's mean. Don't do it. Smash 'em. Replenish 20% toughness after hitting a single enemy with a heavy melee attack. So we're getting buffed for doing heavy melee attacks here. Then Heavyweight, the most important talent in the entire Ogryn tree, which is 30% damage against Bulwarks, Crushers, Plague Ogryns, and Reapers, and also receive 30% damage reduction against the same. So Bulwarks, Crushers, Plague Ogryns, and Reapers will be doing 30% less damage to us. And then we'll be picking up Linchpin, toughness replenishment, while incoherence is increased by 50%. You're generally going to be around your team at all times. Frag Bomb, which is one of the, I consider it the best blitz ability. This is your get out of jail free card. Throw an Ogryn size, the only proper kind, frag grenade with a 16-meter blast radius, dealing increased damage at the center. Now, you probably already know how to use this, but if you don't, I'm going to explain it anyway. This thing is a wave clear. Your entire team is being surrounded. You're getting pushed on the back foot. You can't quite clear them fast enough because things are going on. That makes them all go away. That is your one free reset. The Frag Bomb is your best friend during these scenarios. It was mostly discovered during the Karnak Twins hard mode fights when you're being overwhelmed by heavy armor. That was a game changer. A lot of groups ran veterans with the ammo packs that restore grenades and Ogryns dropping frag bombs. So that's why we're taking the frag bomb. And also because we're going down the right side of the tree, we can't really take the others. We haven't got enough points to do it. And then we're going to be grabbing Soften Them Up. Enemies damaged by you take 15% more damage for 5 seconds. That includes melee and ranged. Coming down here into the toughness, grabbing Point Blank Barrage, swap and reload your ranged weapon. You have 25% rate of fire and 70% reload speed for the next 10 seconds. Then we're going to be grabbing Bullet Bravado. While Point Blank Barrage is active, replenish 2% toughness for every shot fired and 10% toughness on each reload. We're not really going to be getting the reload because we're using the stubber, so we can just ignore the reload bits because it's just not going to happen. Now, some people debate between Hail of Fire and Light Them Up. Hail of Fire just doesn't work very well. Light Them Up is generally the most agreed upon way of building this. So range attacks apply 2 stacks of burn while Point Blank Barrage is active. This is just going to help with that tick damage and apply a lot more damage as we're firing. And down here into reload speed, ammo stash for more ammo, Coward Culling, 20% damage against suppressed enemies for you and your allies' incoherency, and 25% suppression dealt. Now, we aren't going to be going down the right side into Burst Limit Override because it's not very good. The only time I would suggest going down this way is if you were doing the Ogryn penances. Otherwise, it's not giving you much to improve upon the build. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down the middle. But before that, we're coming over here. We're going to grab a melee damage here. Delight and Destruction. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm well aware there is no bleed in this build. This is purely a needs must point. Because what we want is to get to Dominate. Because we have very little rending in this build, and this is going to help with that. So 10% rending for 10 seconds on elite kill. And then we're going to be grabbing the toughness damage reduction down here. So it's these two we want. This is just an unfortunate tax for us. And then we're going to be coming down the middle. We're going to be grabbing Get Stuck In on activating your combat ability. You and your allies and coherency gain 20% movement speed, and are also immune to stun and suppression. It's not great, but it's good. It works. Bruiser, 4% combat ability cooldown reduction when you and your allies in coherency kill an elite enemy. This is also why I wouldn't suggest having combat ability regeneration on your Curios, because we've got it inbuilt in the build. And then down here for some more toughness, and then won't give in. 20% damage reduction for each knockdown or incapacitated ally within 20 meters. This is basically going to help you clutch if you need to. And then a health boost here, and now we're taking Feel No Pain. They have slightly nerfed how it works, but it's still incredibly powerful. This is just going to make us a big slab of toughness and health. So it's just going to allow us to be alive much, much longer. So you're blessed with 10 stacks of Feel No Pain. Each stack grants 2.5% toughness replenishment and 2.5% damage reduction. Taking damage removes one stack, and stacks are restored every 3 seconds. Now, you don't have to take this point, but if you don't take it, you don't get down to this. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. I just prefer taking them. Pained Outburst. When Feel No Pain reaches 0 stacks, you push enemies and replenish. You push enemies back and replenish 20% toughness. This is really, really good during sketchy situations. So if you're surrounded and you're taking a beating, this is going to give you a few seconds of breathing room. Or if you've been jumped by a Chaos Hound, this is going to get it off of you if your team is nowhere in sight, or if you're the lone survivor. This is going to give you that second chance to carry on. And then toughest. Feel No Pain grants 2.5% toughness replenishment per stack. And building this along with the toughness replenishment we have on the Curios, we have very quick, very efficient toughness regeneration. But like I said, this isn't going to give you wild amounts of damage. It's going to give you huge amounts of survivability. Whereas this tree, it's not great, to be honest. But if you need the Ogryn penances, then yeah, take all this out, go into here. But otherwise, I would highly recommend not going down to Burst Limit Override. It just doesn't do much for us. Whereas this does a lot for us. There you go. That is the Gunlugger, or at least my iteration of it. So I do hope you folks enjoy the build. If you do, please do like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy and see you later.